Hey guys, and welcome to the Working Money Channel. So we finally got it, guys. It happened just yesterday. Ripple and the SEC have now filed their motions for summary judgment, and we've got Brad Garlinghouse here on Twitter talking about today's filings. He says today's filings make it clear the SEC isn't interested in applying the law. They want to remake it all in an impermissible effort to expand their jurisdiction far beyond the authority granted to them by Congress. So are they going to get their way? Well, Ripple's lawyers have been working far too hard to let that happen. And guys, we're going to get into some thoughts about this filing in a second. But first, I wanted to just take a look at the market because over the course of yesterday, XRP continued to pump. And, I did a video yesterday talking about some thoughts as to why we were seeing this happen and, looking at other cryptocurrencies, looking at XRP, looking at other coins. And, there was a trend. It was looking like XRP and similar coins like XLM were pumping at the same rate, give or take. When you compare that to coins like Bitcoin and Ethereum, we just weren't seeing that same kind of action. And, since yesterday, we did see XRP pump. Since yesterday, or about a couple days ago now, we did see XRP pump up 22.75%. So almost 23%, guys. Right now, XRP is trading down here at 0.377, but it did go up as high as 39.5 cents. So we did see huge activity on the XRP chart. And again, just comparing that to XLM, you guys can see I talked about XLM yesterday. I talked about all these coins yesterday. And this was from yesterday's video. Well, you guys can see since yesterday how much XLM has pumped. So similar in terms of trend to XRP. I'm just going to bring up Algorand as well. So another one of those coins. And you guys can see yesterday I talked about it, and it was as high as this. We did see some more action on the Algorand chart up here. So far, these are WEF coins. Let's bring up ADA real quickly here. ADA, not as spectacular of a performance as XLM, for example. But let me bring up Bitcoin, guys. Now I'm bringing up Bitcoin, and as you guys can see, Bitcoin, barely anything. We did see a bit more momentum. But, since yesterday's video, we're kind of flat. We're kind of coming right back down to that same level we saw when I was talking about yesterday's video, when I recorded that almost 24 hours ago. Bringing up Ethereum here. You guys can see Ethereum, not too much to talk about with regards to Ethereum. However, Ethereum has been experiencing its own challenges because of the merge and other external factors. So now I'm wondering, just bringing XRP back up on the chart here, now I'm wondering if there are people close to the case that knew what was going to happen, that are front-running XRP, even though we don't have a final verdict yet. Now we have these motions for summary judgment, which I'm going to get into. John Deaton, first of all, kind of as a sidebar along the lines of the Ripple SEC lawsuit, he did post this yesterday. In our amicus brief, I will highlight how Spend the Bits, and Spend the Bits, by the way, a great wallet if you do use Bitcoin. They specialize. I mean, one of the highlighted points of this particular wallet is that with their interface, you can actually send Bitcoin over the XRP ledger with Spend the Bits, and you can basically send Bitcoin in real time as fast as any XRP transaction. So just to John Deaton's point here, he highlights how Spend the Bits and its payment app uses XRP and the XRPL to spend your BTC. I will also highlight link 2, allowing you to purchase actual securities of Ripple stock with the currency XRP using your Uphold wallet. So then he says, with Spend the Bits, XRP is used as a tool, a transfer token, helping facilitate BTC as a medium of exchange as a payment for goods and services. With link 2 and Uphold, XRP is used as a substitute for fiat. Two great examples demonstrating XRP is not a security. So John Deaton here continuing to hit this point home. Meanwhile, just another quick article here just to kind of set the landscape for, I think, what is going to be happening with regards to the Ripple SEC case and the future of cryptocurrency adoption in the United States. Now we're seeing this kind of thing, guys. The consensus for crypto-specific regulation is growing. So despite Gary Gensler's efforts to, keep it in a box for the SEC only to regulate, well, he's losing that battle. The position of the SEC with regards to cryptocurrencies, that existing regulations and guidances are adequate to cover this asset class, appears to be losing ground in Washington. So driving the news, the White House released a series of reports this morning describing its comprehensive framework for responsible development of digital assets. So we did talk a little bit about that White House report. In comments to reporters, the administration seemed to indicate a disagreement. Here's a quote. One of the recommendations was that regulators will issue new rules and guidance to resolve confusion and close gaps related to existing financial regulations application to cryptocurrency. So that's a recognition that we see work needed in the space, a senior administration official said. That's a clear recommendation coming out of the studies that were done. And guys, why this matters, the cryptocurrency industry has gotten big, but it remains volatile. The combined market cap of all cryptocurrencies fell from 2.8 trillion in November to less than 1 trillion today. So we know that obviously based on the cryptocurrencies that we hold, based on being in this market during the last bull run. And now, it's been almost a year where the market has been in a downturn. Just down here, of note, regulators like the SEC, while appointed by the White House, are independent of the administration. And the state of play, the SEC chair has repeatedly stated that existing regulations are adequate, mainly enforcing those regulations with enforcement against crypto firms and a few no-action letters. Just last week, Chair Gary Gensler again broke down the ways in which his agency can already provide guidance, asserting that more rules specially designed for cryptocurrency or distributed ledger technology, as they prefer to discuss in DC, would not be forthcoming. But on Thursday, before the Senate Banking Committee, he seemed to warn legislators against paying too close heed to the industry's calls for blockchain-specific legislation, saying in his prepared testimony, let's ensure that we don't inadvertently examine securities laws underlying $100 trillion capital markets. So it's looking as though Washington is starting to disagree. Gary Gensler's starting to lose ground, which is good for us, of course. And, the icing on the cake is now what we're getting from the filings for motion for summary judgment. First, I've got this, guys. Stuart Alderati posting this. The day is finally here. Our motion for summary judgment is public, and you can view it here. So I've got all the links in the description. You guys can take a look at this. James K. Filan posted this yesterday. With regards to the Ripple SEC case, breaking news, Ripple Labs, Brad Garlinghouse, and Chris Larson file motion for summary judgment seeking judgment as a matter of law. So Stuart Alderati gives his hot take after 2 years of litigation. The SEC is unable to identify any contract for investment. That's what the statute requires, and cannot satisfy a single prong of the Supreme Court's Howey test. Boom! Everything else is just noise. Congress only gave the SEC jurisdiction over securities. Let's get back to what the law says. So a very bold statement here by Ripple's in-house counsel, Stuart Alderati. Car Ramrod down here saying, will summary judgment give XRP any clarity? Anders down here responding, yes, that XRP is not a security, which is the most important thing for them all. And then he says, I think it was either Chris Larson or Brad Garlinghouse who stated that. Dingo Ate My XRP posted this. This line in the opening really hammers it home. The SEC's claims are absurd. The SEC alleges that the XRP, even the 20 billion XRP that Ripple never owned, is a security issued by Ripple. And Anders responds, yeah, pretty obvious the lawsuit was a weapon, like John Deaton stated all those months ago, and probably over a year ago now. I mean, he's pretty much attached himself to this case since the beginning, since December of 2020. So we've got strong arguments coming out of the gate. And Ashley Prosper bringing this up, just highlighting some quoted material from the document. The Ripple team is hitting hard with this summary judgment motion and is getting right to the heart of the matter. So let me read you guys this. Unsurprisingly, therefore, it is regulated as a virtual currency by the U.S. Department of the Treasury's Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, FinCEN. So there was a point in time when FinCEN already declared XRP a currency, as a commodity by the Commodity Futures Trading Commission, the CFTC, as property under federal tax law, as an intangible asset under generally accepted accounting principles, but as a security by none of those authorities. So although the SEC is saying, no, XRP is a security, Ashley Prosper pointing to this in Ripple's filed motion, that all these other organizations have classified XRP as all these other things, yet none of them have classified it as a security. In straining to argue otherwise, the SEC is engaged in a regulatory land grab that far exceeds the boundaries Congress set on its authority. The SEC is not following the law. It is seeking to remake it. Boom goes the dynamite. A great little snippet here from Ripple's motion. So I wanted to thank Ashley Prosper just for posting that. Next, we've got Wrath of Kahneman's comments here on Ripple's motion. So he's not a lawyer, obviously, but he gives his 2 cents. Ripple spills a lot of ink establishing prior definitions of investment contract that Howey relies on to limit SEC overreach in the ambiguity of the phrase. So just posting the legend here, or rather the table of contents. Down here he goes, legal docs are intimidating, but the table of contents is pretty clear. Ripple's arguments have 2 main points. 1, there were no investment contracts. And 2, nothing meets the Howey test. So I think that those are the 2 points that they have to hit home really, really hard in order to get the judge to agree. Everything else is supporting argumentation. Stuart Alderati said it plainly, and so he's just retweeting Stuart Alderati's tweet that I just went over. So it's a methodical explanation of why XRP sales were not investment contracts, the way the law defined them before Howey, and on which Howey relies. It seeks to define Howey precisely to limit the SEC's ability to interpret however they want. He goes on to say, number 3, you might have hoped Hinman's nonsense would be skewered, but that's a different matter about fair notice. This motion is about XRP status, about investment contracts and the Howey test as categories, and whether the whole thing can be dismissed because nothing applies. Moving on. It's interesting that the Ripple X grants and giveaways figure into the argument in a couple of places because there were no purchases nor investments by the recipients. That XRP just appeared on the market with no money changing hands, no investment contract. So then he just highlights this here, one of the footnotes that was included. And again, guys, I will link everything in the description of the video if you want to go over it in more detail. Then he continues, a lot rides on crypto exchanges too. Why? Because people bought XRP from exchanges and not Ripple. This severs any Ripple contract or expectation. So that's a very good point. You know, when you're buying XRP on the open market, you're not actually going to Ripple and buying the XRP. Who did Ripple sell XRP to? Well, on the secondary market, we all bought our XRP from exchanges, and I think you can say the same. The other argument about exchanges is that many are overseas, and XRP sales were therefore outside of U.S. securities law. So that's the other thing that Wrath of Kahneman brings up here that I think is very important to understand. 6b, he goes on, it's interesting the SEC doesn't target sales just to exchanges, which, don't know, might be more convincing instead of going after everything, lawyer stuff, I guess. Number 7, there's some heavy lifting in the section. Ripple argues public things executives have said do not constitute promises of profit. This includes thorny statements about liquidity, building the network, etc. But again, there were no contracts with claims or rights involved. And so he just posts a point here and highlighted 5 reasons that show why not. Then down here, in general, these are arguments we've already read, only in more detail, and I assume they are refined. I don't anticipate the judge will dismiss the case, though, as these definitions need to be argued in trial, and for that reason, don't think the SEC's motion carries either. Some observations anyway, take them with a grain of salt. I am not a lawyer, but did stay at the Holiday Inn Express once. So great interpretation here from one of the great minds in the XRP community, a great thread by the Wrath of Kahneman, so wanted to thank him for his 2 cents on this. Now to some of the lawyers' opinions. Bill at Balasarius 2020 here on Twitter. Thank you, James. Early for once. The imprecise use of language in respect to common enterprise is just what the SEC should not be allowed to do. The enterprise is not defined, and then use some interchangeability with ecosystem as if ODL and the XRPL are identical. The SEC conflates different things all the time. The XRPL, if that is what the SEC thinks is an ecosystem, can exist independently of anything centered on Ripple that can reasonably be called an enterprise. How gratifying it is to see, having courtesy of File in Law, had the opportunity to now read the Ripple motions for summary judgment, that Ripple has spent about 11 pages out of 75 pages demolishing the SEC's arguments that there is a common enterprise. It did not allow the SEC to get away with sleight of hand of passing over the common enterprise prong of Howey or reducing it to part of a single inquiry with the inquiry of other prongs. XRPL Fawcett down here saying, yes, they often seem to make assumptions that efforts to increase liquidity, which is exceptionally important for Ripple's products to function as intended, are also efforts to increase XRP price. And, if you guys have been in the XRP community for a while, you know that that just is not the case. Ripple has been trying to increase liquidity with many different methods over the last several years. I mean, they first started with XRapid. They talked about in certain circumstances that they would give XRP away. I think it was even Ashish Birla who, when they mentioned that they had 50% of Indian banks back in 2018, Ashish Birla said, one of our strategies was maybe we're just going to give everybody XRP so that they can utilize it in the ecosystem. And so even though Ripple thought XRP had a value at that time, their thought was to just give it away, in which case more people will utilize XRP, and then, the value will grow because the liquidity will grow. So there were many different strategies, and the SEC is trying to conflate the two, as Bill says here. All right, so that's Bill's 2 cents on this. Let me continue. So this was the original tweet from James K. Filan here. And it looks as though Fred Rispoli is also chiming in on this. This will take hours to really dive into, but skimming through the SEC's briefs, unsurprisingly, it is relying heavily on marketing efforts. Well, this is the weakest point for Ripple. So he does state, there were marketing efforts, and this could be The breaking point, this is where the SEC is going. They see this as a weak point for Ripple. He also says, I just don't think it's close enough to being weak enough to give the SEC a win, especially with the fair notice defense in play. And XRP Boy down here responding, I read your comment many times, but somehow still don't get it. So the SEC's position at this stage is weak. And does Fred respond here? You got that right. I think the only winning argument the SEC has relates to Ripple marketing XRP. But zooming out from the tree and looking at the forest, it's just not enough for the SEC to win. So boom, another great response here from one of the Ripple XRP community lawyers, Fred Rispoli, chiming in on this thread. We got a lot of great information down here. Even Sherry at Cherry Empress 21, she says this was good. The SEC has laid out their cards and argued very heavily on the application of the Howey test. Ripple Labs should be extremely careful promoting and selling XRP. So that's one of, as Fred pointed out, that's one of the SEC's strongest points. Examples were given, and some major nitpicking was given as what should have been said. She goes on to say down here, where was it? Right, it was down here. Page 53 is where the SEC argues that there isn't a genuine dispute, which I disagree with. Fair notice gets first mention on page 77, followed by an example of the Kik Interactive case. Beyond Kik, courts routinely reject fair notice defenses on summary judgment. Then she says what the SEC failed to mention was that Ripple transitioned its business practices years after getting notice from their legal counsel. This absence of information does give a genuine reason to dispute things. And the future is here responding, wow, what powers do you have that you read all those pages in under an hour? I love it. Most of it is easy to skim through because the information is reoccurring. Now on to reading Ripple's submission. So Cherry Empress 21 also giving her 2 cents. Wanted to thank her, James K. Filan, and of course, Fred Rispoli, pointing out the obvious. The SEC is really trying to focus in on Ripple's weakest argument. And, it's just not going to be enough. It's not going to be enough for a win, giving Ripple the upper hand. Now, we've got Jeremy Hogan here, who's promising us a video today. I just read the briefs, and the SEC has got a couple of big problems here. So Jeremy Hogan stating his opinion with regards to the SEC's position. Number one, its experts agree that most of the changes in XRP price are due to market forces and not Ripple. Ouch. These types of concessions are perfect for summary judgment. He goes on to say the SEC failed to get on record that any XRP purchaser heard Ripple's alleged marketing pitch. A big problem because it has the burden to prove everything here. And of course, a lot of other stuff, which I will do my best to lay out in a video tomorrow if I can sleep. And so XRP Crypto Wolf responding here, what are the chances the judge will rule on XRP, or rather on the XRP lawsuit, based on the summary judgment filings instead of taking it to trial? And Jeremy Hogan saying, I didn't read anything tonight that makes it past summary judgment and to trial. So even Jeremy Hogan, after reading the brief, and, I guess he still has to process things, doesn't think this will in fact make it to trial, and that we will settle probably in a couple of months. Who was mentioning it down here? Somebody down here was saying we will likely see a settlement soon. Explanation, the SEC own elected experts think XRP gains come from greater crypto market forces rather than a play on securities, as the SEC has been alleging this entire time. So even the SEC's experts have said, no, XRP runs with the market. XRP is basically rallying with other cryptocurrencies in the crypto market and has nothing to do with Ripple's efforts. And we have seen this time and time and time again. All the positive Ripple XRP news has not moved the price. But when we see the crypto market moving, generally XRP moves with the market. There are some instances where that doesn't happen, but it's weird. There's always some times where some cryptos do their own kind of funny, wacky thing. But generally speaking, XRP rolls with Bitcoin and the greater crypto market. So we're putting this over the backdrop of, what's going on in the US. But guys, we're getting very, very close to what is possibly going to be a settlement. Also, let's just go back to the price of XRP and what we've been seeing over the last couple of days now. XRP soaring almost 23%, one of the best performing crypto assets in the space. Well, definitely the best performing crypto asset in the top 10 cryptocurrencies. And maybe even one of the best crypto assets performing in the space. So then we got to point to this and what's actually going on chain. XRP Crypto Wolf bringing this to our attention. XRP wallet addresses soar past 4.3 million as on-chain activities see a remarkable boost. So guys, this just happening over the last couple of days. The total number of addresses holding XRP, Ripple's native token, has hit a milestone of over 4.3 million. The asset attained this landmark despite its unique challenges and the steadfast crypto winter that has brought several assets to shocking lows. Inasmuch as XRP has not been spared in the onslaught, its recent feat highlights the asset's growth in these troubling times. Which just brings me back to, do they know something we don't know? We're seeing a record amount of XRP addresses. We're seeing the price rally. Could this be the ultimate front run for people in the know, for people who realize the SEC's goose is cooked? Also wanted to bring up something interesting, considering, ETHgate has been a big part of the XRP community for the last year plus. Apparently, Michael Branch bringing this to our attention, 82.7% of all relay blocks on the Ethereum blockchain have been found to be built by flashbots alone, contributing heavily to Ethereum's centralization. So now Ethereum being criticized post-merge, and mining data is revealing that Ethereum's heavy reliance on flashbots, a single server for building blocks, raising concerns over a single point of failure to the ecosystem. Flashbots is a centralized entity dedicated to transparent and efficient maximal extractable value, or MEV extraction, which acts as a relay for delivering Ethereum blocks. Data from mevboost.org shows that there are 6 active relays currently delivering at least one block in Ethereum, namely Flashbots, and then names few others here. And you guys can see the chart down here, the top relays. And so as shown above, out of the lot, 82.77% of all relay blocks have been found to be built by Flashbots alone, contributing heavily to Ethereum's centralization. And that on the heels of what I was talking about the other day. According to Santiment, Ethereum post-merge inflation dashboards, 46.15% of the proof of stake nodes for storing data, processing, and transactions and adding new blockchain blocks can be attributed to just 2 addresses. So I showed you guys this the other day, and I'll just bring up the tweet again real quick here. You guys can see these 2 numbers from these 2 addresses make up almost half, 46.15% of the nodes. So, this merge, not looking great for crypto purists, and, not looking great for the ecosystem, and, not looking great for those who want to build a decentralized environment. And considering all this, considering what we know about Ethereum now, and, the fact that we're seeing XRP addresses increase, and we're getting motions for summary judgment by both parties filing these recently, not to mention the cold hard truth of where Ripple and XRP are situated in the middle of rebuilding the financial system. Just a quick clip of David Schwartz stating just that, courtesy of XRP Stash here on Twitter.
We're in the middle of the sort of rebuilding of the financial system, and Ripple is poised to figure out where the interesting things are.
They have not been hiding it, and they have been supported by world elites along the way. Based on what we're seeing here, guys, I think it's apparent, or at least this may be what other investors are thinking, that XRP is going to skyrocket once we finally get that verdict. And so has the front running begun? Tell me down in the comments what you guys think, and please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Like the video if you like the content I'm providing. I always love hearing your comments. See you in the next one, guys.